So, hi children, this is Preeti ma'am here, and I'll be teaching you this topic of Australia, the flattest continent. You have TFI test, so we have to learn all these chapters very quickly. So, please open your book to page 113 and let us quickly go through this chapter. So the continent of, I'll be making you mark some things according to in points. So please keep marking as we are doing the lesson. So the continent of Australia is situated completely in the southern and eastern hemisphere, and it lies between 10.45 degrees and 43.39 degrees south latitude and 113.9 degrees and 153.39 degrees east latitude. And the Tropic of Capricorn passes approximately through the central part of the continent. Now, what does this mean? So first, just mark this entire paragraph. This entire paragraph from here to here, just mark it up. So the continent, do you know that the earth is like a globe? It is round, spherical actually, and the earth is separated in two parts. In beach mein there is an equator, so there is a northern part and a southern part. These are called hemispheres. So the southern part is where Australia is situated, and also the globe is cut into with an east-west direction. So Australia is now situated in the southern hemisphere and the eastern part of the eastern hemisphere. So it is a continent, it's not a country. We know we have 7 continents, and Australia is one of the continents, and it has got a lot of small countries in it. Now let us come to Australia, the extent of Australia. Now, Australia is the smallest continent both in terms of area and population. Please mark this as your first point. It is the smallest continent. Second point is the total area of the continent, including the island of Tasmania, is 76.82 lakh square kilometers. So there is this big continent called Australia. उसके बिल्कुल राइट हैंड कॉर्नर पे एक छोटा सा आइलैंड है, दैट्स कॉल्ड टैस्मेनिया. दैट इज आल्सो अ पार्ट ऑफ ऑस्ट्रेलिया. सो basically it is double the size of India, and it is a little smaller than USA. Just mark whatever I am asking you to mark. Okay, so in this paragraph I've asked you to mark Australia is the smallest continent both in terms of area and population. And then second point is total area of the continent, including the island of Tasmania, is 76.82 lakhs. Okay. The continent, it is also, just mark this, it is the 7th among the continents in order of size. So it is the 7th. So basically, actually, it is the smallest continent, because 7 continents ही हैं. The continent is 3940 kilometers from north to south and 4350 kilometers from east to west, and its coastline is 19. So just mark this, that the continent is 3940 kilometers from north to south and 4350 kilometers from west to east. So these are just facts. There's nothing much to explain in it. Now this is the map of Australia. So this is how Australia looks. And so now let us see what is the physical setting of Australia. So basically, Australia is located between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And it is also got the Timor Sea, the Arafura Sea in the northwest, the Torres Strait and Coral Sea in the northeast, and it's got the Tasman Sea in the southeast and the Great Australian Bight in the south. So if you see the map, uh, we have the Timur Sea here, we have the Indian Ocean here, and we have the Pacific Ocean here, and we have a Bass Strait between Tasmania. This is Tasmania. So we have the Bass Strait in between Tasmania. Here is the Arafura Sea. This is the South Ocean, and this is the Timor Sea, and this is the Coral Sea. So it is almost like a very big island. It is surrounded by sea, completely surrounded by sea. So this is basically the location of, and the Australian Bight is somewhere around here. It is a coral reef which is placed around this area. So just you need to just mark off all these points. So the continent of Australia is located between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It is bound by the Timor Sea and Arafura Sea in the northwest, Torres Strait Coral Sea in the northeast, Tasman Sea in the southeast, and the Great Australian Bight in the south. So while you're learning this, refer to the map so that you get an idea of what you are, where each sea is situated. Now for the, let's go to the physical divisions and the river systems of Australia. So here uh, we want to know, why is this place called the flattest continent? That's how the title says, Australia, the flattest continent. So the answer is that out of the total land surface in Australia, 94% is less than 600 meters above sea level, comprising of flat low land. Therefore, it is called the flattest continent. That means that 94% of Australia is basically more or less at sea level. So it is very flat land. There are not too many mountains and highlands and stuff like that. So ज़्यादातर वो flat है पूरा continent. So that is why it is known as the flattest continent. Since most of the continent is occupied by the desert, it is also known as a desert continent. So a lot of it is actually some of the biggest deserts of the world are in Australia. So it is also called a desert continent. तो उसके कौन से दो नाम है? Flattest continent and desert continent. So mark point 1 here. We will mark this. Out of the total land surface in Australia, 94% is less than 600 meters above sea level, comprising of flat lowland, and so it is called the flattest continent. This will be the answer for, you can write important here, because I think this is the answer for that. Why is Australia called the flattest continent? Okay. And also, why is it called the desert continent? Because it has the maximum deserts. Desert you understand, right? रेगिस्तान. तो इसमें बहुत सारे रेगिस्तान है, अलग अलग एरियाज में अलग अलग रेगिस्तान है. ठीक है? So it is a desert continent also. It is dry, it is hot, it's just got a lot of sand. So this is the introduction to the physical divisions of Australia. So Australia has 3 physical divisions. So we have the Eastern Highlands. So this area is of the Eastern Highlands, this area. Okay. There is one great dividing range here, which are very famous mountains in Australia. And this area is called the Eastern Highlands. Then we have the Plateau lowlands and we have the Western Plateau. So this side is the Western Plateau. And then we have the Plateau lowlands. So this area in the middle is the Plateau lowland. So now I hope you know what is a plateau. Plateau is basically a long stretch of land, flat land, but which is at a height. So in India, we have what is known as the Deccan Plateau. So if you are actually standing on a plateau, you find that it is just flat land. But ये flat land भी एक height पे है. It can be between two mountain ranges also. So it can be a long stretch of land between two mountain ranges. So obviously, it seems that Australia has a lot of plateaus. So it has the Western Plateau, the Plateau lowlands, and the Eastern highlands. So these are the three basic divisions of Australia as far as the physical features are concerned. So, okay, so now let us see the Eastern highlands, right? So in the Eastern highlands, this, by the name, you know that it lies in the east part of the continent. So we have north, south, east, west. Okay. So it lies in the eastern part of the continent, and it extends from Cape York in the north to the Bass Strait in Tasmania in the south. So just mark this, that from where to where does the Eastern Highland. So it extends, this physical division lies in the eastern part of the continent. It extends from Cape York in the north to the Bass Strait in Tasmania in the south. So you can mark this as point number 1 in Eastern Highlands. Okay. The second point is that the mountain range, which is called the Great Dividing Range, which I showed you on the map, the Great Dividing Range lies roughly parallel to the east coast of Australia. So you just saw that this is the Great Dividing Range. और ये है उसका east coast. Coast is the area where the end area of any land where it meets the sea, that is the coast of the land of that country or continent. And this is the Great Dividing Range. So this is a very, very important mountain range of Australia. So the second point I asked you to mark was from here. The mountain range, the Great Dividing Range, lies roughly parallel to east coast of Australia. Okay. And it has steep slopes on the eastern side, but its slopes are, so just mark up to here, up to Australia. Now, so why were they called the Great Dividing Range? They have told us that when a long time back, the British people or the European people, there was nobody had discovered Australia, and they all came there. So, but they landed all on the east coast. And after that, they could not go to the western part of Australia because of these huge, huge mountains. So those mountains were kind of dividing Australia and not letting outside people to come in and then cross over to the western side. So that is why it was called the Great Dividing Range. Now, the third point, I think, which is important is just mark this, that Mount Kosciuszko, Mount Kosciuszko, which is 2 to 30 meters in height, is in the division, is the highest peak of the continent. So, which is the highest peak of the continent? This is the highest peak of the continent. So in this entire Eastern Highland, just mark this Kosciuszko, which is the highest peak of the mountain. So in this Eastern Highland, we have marked three important things, that this physical division lies in the eastern part of the continent. It extends from Cape York in the north to the Bass Strait in Tasmania in the south. You remember Tasmania, that small island at the end of Australia. So Tasmania and Australia are separated by some water, and that is called the Bass Strait. Okay. Then you can mark that the mountain range. The second point you mark is the mountain range. The Great Dividing Range lies roughly parallel to the east coast of Australia. So this is what you need to remember about this thing, and uh, it has steep slopes on the eastern side, but it slopes gently to the west. Okay. Let's see if I can mark this for you. So mark all this up to, no. Up to here, okay? But slopes gently to the west. Now, this is an important point. So let's mark this. This is the highest peak of the continent. So this also you need to remember. So these 3 points should be enough for this paragraph. Okay, now we have the central lowlands. So the central part, we just heard that we learned that Australia is called the flattest continent. Why is it called the flattest continent? Because most of Australia is at sea level. मतलब कि बिल्कुल सी के लेवल पे उसका सारा लैंड है. और तो ये जो सेंट्रल एरिया है, the central area of Australia, this is completely flat, and this extends from the Gulf of Carpentaria in the north to the Encounter Bay in the south. So we'll just mark this the कि कहाँ से कहाँ तक central lowlands हैं. So यहाँ से mark करो बेटा. It extends. You can mark this part and here, and it has inland drainage. The rivers flows towards Lake Eyre, which is situated in the central part of the region. The world's largest artesian basin is located here. So all this is important. So we need to mark all this, and let me explain this to you. So the central lowlands, I've said ki it is in the central part of Australia, and they are completely flat lands. And we have to see that it extends from the Gulf of Carpentaria in the north and to the Encounter Bay in the south. It lies to the west of Eastern Highlands, and it has inland drainage. So what do you understand by inland drainage? So I think you know कि जो rivers होती हैं वो mountain से शुरू होती हैं और sea या ocean में जाके खत्म होती हैं. अगर ऑस्ट्रेलिया में ज्यादातर माउंटेन्स या किसी हाईलैंड से रिवर्स शुरू होती हैं, बट ज्यादातर दे आर एंडिंग इन सम लेक्स व्हिच आर विद इन द लैंड ऑफ ऑस्ट्रेलिया. दे आर नॉट ड्रेनिंग आउट और दे आर नॉट गोइंग इनटू, या वो किसी सी या ओशन के अंदर नहीं बह रहे हैं, वो वहीं जो बहुत सारे बड़े बड़े लेक्स हैं उसी के अंदर वो जाके बह के खत्म हो जाती हैं रिवर्स. So that is called inland drainage. मतलब लैंड के अंदर ही उनका बहना खत्म हो जाता है, वो मिक्स हो जाते हैं लेक से. So the rivers flows towards Lake Eyre, which is situated in the central part of the region. So Lake Eyre is most probably the biggest lake that Australia has. And a lot of rivers, they are coming from higher lands and they are flowing into the central part, and they all flow into the Lake Eyre. Now, the second thing you have to remember that the world's largest artesian basin is also located here. So what an artesian basin is basically कि ग्राउंड में भी पानी होता है ना, तो वो बहुत सारा ग्राउंड से जो प्रेशर आता है उससे वो पानी ऊपर 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 आ जाता है. जब वो एक वेल बनाते हैं आपके गांव में, जैसे वेल बनाते हैं ना, कुआं बनाते हैं, तो ये बिल्कुल फ्रेश पानी वेल में आ जाता है, एंड इट कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर ड्रिंकिंग एंड cooking and any other thing. So because Australia has so many lakes also, there are a lot of fresh water underneath the ground, and it is the world's largest artesian basin. That means it has got lots of water underground where wells are then dug, and then after that they can use that water. So here you have to remember from where to where the, let me just show you again on the map. Okay, so can you see Gulf of Carpentaria here? Gulf of Carpentaria in the north. Okay, and then it comes down here, and then we have the Encounter Bay in the south. Okay, they have not marked the Encounter Bay, but basically it means from somewhere from here to here. ये जो सब आपको पर्पल दिखाई दे रहा है ना, that is all the lowland. All the mostly the purple is the lowland, the white is even lower land. तो ये सब इसका, ये जो दिखाई दे रहा है बेसिकली ये सेंट्रल लोलैंड का एरिया है. एंड इट इज ऑल्सो फ्रॉम ईस्टर्न हाईलैंड. तो ये ईस्टर्न हाईलैंड इधर था, राइट, जहाँ ग्रेट डिवाइडिंग रेंज है. तो यहाँ से कहीं लोलैंड शुरू होता है और यहाँ इस वेस्टर्न साइड तक जाता है. तो दिस इज द एरिया ऑफ द eastern, the central lowlands. Okay. Okay. Now so now we have seen the extent of the central lowlands, and we have also seen that what is inland drainage, whether river के अंदर ही सारे rivers flow हो रही हैं, lake के अंदर ही सारे rivers flow हो रही हैं, and the main lake in which they go is called the Lake Eyre. Just mark this part. The river flows towards Lake Eyre, which is situated in the central part of the region, and it is also the world's largest artesian basin, and it is located here. And now these are the central lowlands can be divided into 3 basins. So these are the 3 basins that the central lowlands can be divided. So you can mark all these as important because I think it is all points here are important. Okay, I hope you have understood this. So we can move on. So we have the Murray-Darling Basin, then we have the Lake Eyre Basin, and then we have the Carpentaria Lowlands. Okay. Now, see, here is a picture of the artesian wells. So it is very rich in, because it's got a lot of inland water. It's very rich in water, in fresh water. The Murray-Darling Basin is separated from the Lake Eyre Basin, and it is in the north. So just mark this part. The Murray-Darling Basin, sorry. The Murray-Darling Basin is separated from the Lake Eyre Basin, and it is in the north. It is rich in agricultural area. 1 minute, just let me mark it up. It is rich in agricultural area of the continent with adequate water supply. The Lake Eyre Basin is vast saucer-shaped area. It lies in the north of the Murray Basin. So basically, these 2 points, anyway, you just mark this because these are all the important points. Okay, so we have the Murray-Darling Basin. It is separated from the Lake Eyre Basin and it is in the north. So first is the Murray-Darling Basin. What is important here? It is rich in agriculture and it has lots of water supply. तो obviously water भी है, land भी अच्छा है, तो agriculture अच्छा है यहाँ. Second is the Lake Eyre Basin. Now this, it lies in the north of the Murray-Darling Basin. तो Murray-Darling Basin जहाँ है, उसके north पे Eyre Basin situated है. Now it is the lowest part of Australia and the bed of Eyre is the lowest point. So this is another point you mark, that it is the Lake Eyre जो है, it is the lowest part of Australia. Means बिल्कुल ही flat से flat land पे है. It is the lowest part of Australia and the bed of Lake Eyre is the lowest point of Australia. Bed of Lake Eyre means जो lake के नीचे जमीन होती है, that is called the bed. So that if you take that as a point, it is the lowest point of Australia. Many salt lakes are found here. Much of the region is barren desert and very sparsely populated. The Carpentaria lowland lies in the north of Lake Eyre Basin and separated from the Barkly Plateau. It is drained by the rivers Flinders and Michelle. So we had just learned that there were 3 basins, na? Carpentaria lowland basin, Lake Eyre Basin, and the Murray-Darling Basin. So this, they are just telling you the location of the 3 basins. So you basically need to know that the first point here is the Murray-Darling Basin is separated from the Lake Eyre Basin and it is in the north. Just mark this as the first point. It is rich agricultural area of the continent with adequate water supply. Okay, with adequate water supply. Mark this as the second point. This is the second point here, starting from here. Now the third point is that the Lake Eyre Basin is a vast saucer-shaped area and it lies in the north of the Murray Basin. तो जहाँ भी Murray Basin है, उसके north में Lake Eyre का basin है. Now that is the third point. Now mark this as the fourth point. It is the lowest part of Australia and the bed of Lake Eyre is the lowest point. Mark this as the fourth point. And this is the fifth point from here. Carpentarian lowland lies in the north of Lake Eyre Basin and it is separated from the Barkly Plateau and it is drained by 2 rivers. One is called the Flinders and one is called the Michelle. Okay. So I hope you have got all this information and done all your markings. So we will now come to the Western Plateau. So I've already explained what is a plateau. It is a long stretch of flat land, sometimes between 2 mountain ranges, but this flat land is at a height. It can be, sometimes plateaus are found very, very high in the mountains also. So it is basically at a height. It is not at sea level. So any piece of land like that, it is called a plateau. So it extends from the Gulf of Carpentaria to Onslow, and it has Perth and Alabama in the southeast. So, so this also, this is where it's the Western Plateau. It extends Carpentaria to Onslow, it has Perth and Alabama in the southeast. ये सब mark करो as point number 1. And this is also important. This table land occupies more than 1/3 of the 2/3 of the continent. This table land occupies more than 2/3 of the continent. So you can imagine how big it will be अगर 2/3 of the continent सिर्फ plateau ही है, flat plateau land. In the western plateau, there are many deserts. You know what is desert, na? Desert, I just told you. Deserts are Registan. Okay, so now just mark this. Famous deserts located here are the Great, sorry, just these few of them you can learn, okay? And you should know right here, up to here you mark it. So the famous deserts located here are the Great Sandy Desert, the Great Victoria Desert, and the Gibson Desert. So plateau is as old as the Deccan Plateau of India. So if you compare it, it is as old as the Deccan Plateau. So we have a plateau which is called the Deccan Plateau, which is very much in the central part of India. Generally, a lot of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, a little bit maybe of Andhra, but it is basically that area that come under this Deccan Plateau of India. So it is almost as old as that, and you will have to learn the name of Sandy Desert, Great Victoria Desert, and Gibson Desert. Okay, so there are some isolated inselbergs and hillocks, among them Musgrave, and okay, I think these points up from here to here are important. So from here to here is basically what you mark here. Okay, these are the important points here. Little bit, if you want little more information, then Musgrave, you can mark this, that Musgrave and McDonnell are the highest ranges in central Australia. So I hope you have got all these. These are the three, the Western Plateau, okay, the Western Plateau, the Central Lowlands, and the Eastern Highlands. These are the three main physical features of Australia. Now, let us do the river system of Australia. So there are very few rivers in Australia because it is very dry or temperatures be बहुत high हैं. It's a very hot place. It is mostly got desert. So it is got very, there are very few rivers. And we have already seen that most of the rivers of Australia, there is an inland drainage system. So most of the rivers, they all flow into the lakes. So most of the rivers in Australia, they are flowing into the lakes. So this part is what we are doing just now. And so you have to remember, you just mark this, that most of the rivers are flow into the lakes, and most of the rivers of Australia rise in the Eastern Highlands. So they rise in the Eastern Highland, which is somewhere here. So this is highland, na? Mountain. हमेशा जो river होता है वो mountain से ही शुरू होते हैं, क्योंकि हमें पता है पानी ऊपर से नीचे बहता है ना. So the river also starts at a high point and then it comes down, and this all is lowland, and this is where lot of rivers, lot of lakes are there, and you can see that all of them are flowing into the lakes. So Lake Eyre, here is Lake Eyre, and you can see that these rivers, all these famous rivers, they are flowing into the lake आयर. So this is what basically is inland drainage. कि वो शुरू तो यहाँ से हो रहे हैं हाईलैंड से, मगर खत्म लैंड के अंदर ही लेक में खत्म हो रहे हैं. So the Murray is the most important river in Australia. Okay, so this is a point that you need to mark, that the Murray River is the most important river in Australia. Okay. Then if we want to learn a little more about the Murray River, कि वो कहाँ से शुरू होती है, ये यहाँ से शुरू होती है. ये वाला जो mountain है, this is where the Murray River starts. So the Murray River is the most important river in Australia, and it also starts in Mount Kosciuszko, which we had learned earlier is the highest mountain peak in Australia. Okay, so it is basically starting from the highest mountain peak in Australia. And the third point you need to know that it flows into the Bay of Encounter. Okay, it flows into the Bay of Encounter. So these are the 3 points that you need to know about the Murray River. First is that it is the most important river, so you can mark that. It rises near the Kosciuszko mountain. Okay, and third, where does it end? This is the starting and this is the ending. It flows into the Bay of Encounter. It has 3 tributaries. One is called the Darling, the Lachlan, and the Murrumbidgee. These are the 3 tributaries. What are tributaries? Tributaries are, there is a main river और फिर उसकी छोटे छोटे बच्चे जैसे निकलते हैं, like arms, and there are smaller, tinier rivers that come out of the big river. So these are the tributaries. And the Darling River, it's a very famous river actually, is one of the tributaries, the Lachlan and the Murrumbidgee. These are the 3 tributaries. And these rivers are very useful for navigation in certain seasons. So navigation means कि आप उसके ऊपर boats or maybe smaller ships भी जा सकती हैं. You can actually take a ride on the river. Now, so there are these rivers which are east flowing. The east flowing rivers are short and swift. They are Hunter, the East Fitzroy, and the Belando. So these are the east flowing. These are some examples of the east flowing river. These are just facts, beta. You just have to learn these. The east flowing rivers are short and swift. Short and swift means कि short, you know what is short, and swift is कि बहुत fast. क्योंकि they're coming from a height and they just come very fast down और जल्दी से लेक में चली जाती हैं और खत्म हो जाती हैं. So these are the examples of the east flowing short, the Hunter, the East Fitzroy, and the Belando. These are the examples. And so we have some east flowing rivers. And then we have some rivers which are going towards the north. So we have some rivers which are going towards the northwest and they join the Gulf of Carpentaria. The ones that are going towards the northwest, they join the Gulf of Carpentaria. Okay. So I think if you remember the Murray, that will be the most important paragraph here. Then you should know the names of the east flowing rivers which are the Hunter, the East Fitzroy, and the Belando. Then we have rivers Mitchell, Gilbert, and Flinders in the northeast. Okay, this can be another point which flow towards the northwest and join the Gulf of Carpentaria. Then rivers Cooper Creek, Diamantina, and Mukamba drain into the Lake Eyre. So this is important because we should know which are the rivers that uh, join into Lake Eyre, right? So these are the rivers. We have Cooper, and we have this Dementia and Mukamba. They drain into the Lake Eyre rivers, because Lake Eyre we know is extremely important river. So there are some lakes in Australia. Not only some, there are some very big lakes also, and some small. They are small in size, and most of them are salt lakes. मतलब salt water है, fresh water नहीं है ये. So Lake Eyre, Lake Gardiner, Lake Torrens, Lake Blanche, etc. And so this is an important point about the lakes. Okay, so you should know that these are the important lakes. And which is the largest lake? Lake Eyre is the largest lake. Lake Eyre is the largest lake, and the world's largest monolithic rock, Eyre's Rock, lies in the west of the Eyre Lake. So if you see the photographs, this is Lake Eyre, which is the largest lake in Australia. Which is the largest lake? Lake Eyre. Okay, and this is what is called a monolithic rock. It is called the Eyre's Rock. That means that it is made of one large piece of stone, and it is the world's largest monolithic rock, Eyre's Rock. You can mark this as important because this is it's a very interesting fact. Lake Eyre is the largest river. That is also important. Okay, and the names of the lakes, you must know the names of the lakes, all the 4 lakes that have been mentioned here. So you can learn the names of the lakes also. So we will end today's lesson here, and we will start off with climate in our next session. So I want you to mark up whatever I have told you to mark. Please mark it, and whatever we have marked is important. So you must learn all that, and this chapter is very much there in the TFI test. Okay. So thank you, and please study hard for your test and do well.